My brother-in-law Mark racked up debt and ended up taking his own life, so I took in my homeless sister Helen and nephew Kim. I didn't charge them a cent and even helped Kim through college. But when I got pregnant, my sister secretly poisoned me over time. She thought if I had my own child, I wouldn't spend on Kim anymore. Eventually, I died, taking my unborn child with me. Next thing I knew, I was at Mark's funeral. I said, "Sis, honestly, Kim's not the academic type. Maybe he should get a job instead?" My words brought the funeral's fake or real sobs to a halt, the room going deadly silent. See, growing up, I was the obedient, sensible youngest child. I always gave in to my sister, never complaining. When she was fretting about not having money for Kim's college, some relative casually suggested, "Ruby won't let her nephew struggle. Helen, rest easy." When Mark was drowning in debt, I frequently helped out my sister's family. But now that I voiced something so harsh, it was like they thought I'd turned into some kind of monster. "Ruby, what are you talking about?" my sister exclaimed, her eyes wide, tears barely hanging. Such an actress. I laughed coldly inside. In my past life, I had been moved by her grief. But then I accidentally saw Helen's chat screen and found out she'd leaked Mark's whereabouts to debt collectors. He was caught, beaten, humiliated, and ultimately jumped to his death. And most of Mark's debts? They were to cover my sister's failed business ventures. I'm not talking crazy. Kim's been a troublemaker and a slacker. You think college will straighten him out? Anyway, you're broke, maybe it's better he starts working early. I sneered, not backing down. In a split second, my dad slapped me hard, yelling hoarsely, "You're speaking nonsense. Your brother-in-law just died, and instead of supporting your sister, you're being heartless? How could I raise such a wicked daughter?" Mom looked at me with disappointment, comforting her favorite grandson under her arm. In my past life, I wouldn't have said a word, having no say at home. I was expected to endure everything silently. My parents always favored Helen. I got the smallest apple, the drumsticks were for her, and I had to wear her hand-me-downs. I was the scapegoat, even when I went to college. Half of what I earned went to her because staying home with a child is apparently tough. But was my life any easier? She used my money for makeup. I touched my swollen cheek, my ear still ringing from my dad's solid slap. I glanced up, smiling. Am I wicked? Didn't I buy this house you live in? Don't I provide your monthly expenses? Since you're so kind, maybe you should give them to Helen instead? My parents were instantly taken aback. Dad, looking uneasy, retorted, "You think you're special because you spent some money on your parents? Isn't it your duty? You're better off, shouldn't you help your sister more?" Some relatives chimed in, "Ruby's comments are out of line, you're embarrassing your family." Exactly, all families have someone who bears more, why be so petty about it? Seeing the support from our family, my sister gained confidence and cried louder near our parents. "Ruby, I know you've always looked down on me. I'm poor but proud. I want nothing from you. But right after Mark died, you insult Kim by his funeral? That's low," she sobbed, earning more sympathy. Distant relatives who remained silent began comforting her, pointing fingers at me. Unfazed, I pulled a piece of paper from my handbag, held it up to her. "Proud, are you? What's this, then?" "A few years back, you got scammed into opening a salon and borrowed 100 grand from me. When your family had millions in debt, I never asked you to pay back, just gave you monthly stipends now and then. Have you returned a single cent?" As my sister saw her red-inked fingerprint on the IOU, her tears seemed to freeze along with her expression. She instinctively reached out, but I sidestepped first. I displayed the IOU to my relatives. I never expected to get it back, but I can't stand people acting all high and mighty despite drowning in debt. "Shut up. Ruby, I'll certainly repay you. Even if it kills me, I'll pay back every cent. I don't need your embarrassment," she declared, though with no real intent. I chuckled, putting the IOU back. "I'm done with your drama. If you're that self-sufficient, figure out Kim's tuition yourself. With critic whispers all around, I left the funeral without looking back. I heard my sister moved back in with our parents. They used some of the money I'd given them to cover my nephew's tuition. The house, while under their occupancy, was in my name, which Helen took for granted. But it seems I underestimated just how shameless she could be. Ruby, why did you let your sister move into the house without telling me? It was just a regular Friday, and I wasn't even home yet when I got a call from my husband, Alex. Alex is my senior from school. We got married after obtaining our PhD degrees. We didn't have a wedding ceremony in the country. Instead, we traveled abroad for a wedding trip. I stayed at school to work as a teacher, while he took a job at a research institute in a neighboring city. He only comes home once a week and usually arrives home before me on weekends, preparing dinner while he waits. But this time, when he walked in, the lights were all on. There was my sister sitting in the living room, eating sunflower seeds and watching TV. And her dear son was hogging my computer, intensely gaming away. The place was a mess, snack wrappers, drink cans, sunflower seed shells everywhere. For Alex, who's a bit of a neat freak, it was a nightmare. I guess those two had been wreaking havoc since they arrived. I rushed home and bumped into Alex carrying beer in the elevator. Huh? You're gonna drink? He looked super annoyed. It's your nephew. He saw me bring home a duck and demanded beer duck. Beer duck? He's dreaming. I stormed into the house. As soon as I opened the door, there was Helen, lounging on the couch watching TV, feet up on my coffee table. How'd you get in without the code? Helen dismissed it, spitting out a sunflower seed shell. Oh, you're back. Well, doesn't management have spare keys? I told them I'm your sister, and they gave it to me. She had stayed at my place for a bit before, so the staff recognized her. But someone handing out a spare key without even calling us? That's crazy. I took a deep breath. You've got one chance to leave before I call the cops. I was almost laughing from how mad I was, though I felt oddly calm. As I imagined, Helen just kinda laughed off my words. Come on, you're joking. Call the cops? I'm your sister, Ruby. I'm here offering an olive branch after you embarrassed me. Best not push it. She really thought her little sister, who always let things slide, wouldn't stand up for herself. I rubbed my temples, pulled out my phone, and didn't bother arguing further. Hello? Property management? I'm the homeowner. There's been a break-in at my place. Please send over the staff member who handed out my spare key without notifying me. Yes, now, because I'm calling the police. At first, Helen probably thought I was bluffing, until that flustered staff member showed up at my door. When I dialed 911, then she started to panic. Wait, you're serious? I'm your sister. What did I steal? You're really gonna call the cops over this? She lunged to grab my phone, but Alex held her back firmly. Yeah, I've seen her stay here before, so I gave her the key. Don't drag me into family drama. Please don't call the cops. The staff member was terrified and blabbering along. I shot them both a cold look and pointed to the door camera. Wait, everything you did here is on camera. The police will be reviewing it soon. The police station's nearby, so it wasn't long before officers showed up at my place. The footage was as clear as day. The moment I left the house, Helen and her kid came in with their bags. It was like they wanted revenge, trashing everything. Wearing shoes on my couch, pouring dirty water in the bathroom, emptying my fridge, even letting ice cream melt all over the kitchen. And they raided our closet, trying on our clothes. Look, this is family stuff. It's not police business. I'm her sister, Helen stammered, still trying to defend herself. I cut her off. A sister? A sister wouldn't sneak in and wreck the place. If I invited you, why didn't you just ask for the code? Why grab a spare? I glanced sharply at the trembling staff member. The officers exchanged glances, nodding, then coolly pulled out cuffs, locking up Helen and her precious son Kim. "And you, please come along," they added, motioning to the frightened staff. But man, who'd expect my big, strong nephew to suddenly go berserk seeing the cuffs? It wasn't me. Stupid mom. She wanted to teach Aunt a lesson. I had a game with my buddies. "Don't arrest me." "Shut it, kid." Blaming it all on me, Helen snapped, turning pale. "Enough. Any more talk goes through us," one of the older cops shouted, drawing his baton. Kim clammed up real quick, scared into silence, and followed them out. So just like that, those three, along with Alex and me, all ended up at the police station. It was pushing midnight by the time we finished paperwork. Flew home 5 of us, returned with just me and Alex. They've gotta cover all my damages and stress. Plus, the property staff must clean everything up. Helen and Kim get 10 days for breaking in. All because I wouldn't let it slide. Watching Helen so mad but helpless? Yeah, worth it. I was holding my growling stomach. "Hey, it's so late, and you still want to make beer braised duck?" Alex laughed and put his arm around my shoulder. "Of course. I'd hate to waste that fat duck I bought. Now, let's really enjoy it." Alex is always so steady. He gives me confidence when I'm about to break down. I remember the last time, when he was with me on the ambulance, bawling his eyes out, almost fainting. It was the first time I saw him lose his cool like that. As I ate the beer duck, I suddenly started crying. "What's wrong? Is the duck not tasty?" Alex looked startled, not knowing what to do. I took a gulp of leftover beer. "I swear, I'm never gonna be such a fool again. Let whoever wants to take care of those parasites do it." During the time when Helen and her kid were detained, life was pretty peaceful, except for occasional calls from my parents filled with blame and scolding. I taught classes, went to work, with no disturbances, a rare peace and quiet. "Hey, what's happening? Why is there such a crowd over by the office?" Just finished my last morning class. I got a coffee with a coworker, ready to grab lunch when we saw a massive crowd near my office, students and teachers alike. Bewildered, my colleague and I saw the assistant, sweating and squeezing through the crowd towards me. "Professor. Something's up, your family is causing a scene at the school, and even the higher-ups are involved." "What?" My eyes went wide with shock. The coffee cup almost got crushed in my hand. My parents were sighing on the sofa, Helen and her son were sobbing at my desk. The vice principal, with a head full of white hair, was trying in vain to persuade them. That was the scene I walked into in the office. We worked so hard to get her through her PhD, thinking it's okay if we suffer but not the kids, and now she just turns her back on us, thinking we're beneath her. Inviting her own family to her house and then calling the cops on them. How can a teacher like that educate others? My dad was furious, wearing his old, worn-out jacket he insisted on wearing today to make me look like the ungrateful one. "Alright, since Ruby is here, discuss what you need with her. I'll try to mediate." The vice principal was helpless, unable to forcibly remove anyone in front of all these witnesses. My sister immediately stopped her sobbing, eyes fixed on me. "I'm not asking for much, just let us stay at your place for now. We're family, after all, right? I can overlook everything from before." Growing up with Helen, I knew exactly what she was thinking. She wasn't just looking for a place to crash. The parents' house is small. Mine is bigger. Living with me meant free food and shelter. Because of how my parents always spoiled her, she felt entitled to my things, assuming I'd always take care of her. "No way." I scoffed. "See? There you go. Ruby is that kind of person, so cold to her own family. How could she be responsible towards her students?" She started bawling again. The vice principal, clearly agitated, whispered to me. "Ruby, this family issue is disrupting the school. Maybe just agree for now. I know you're not like what they claim, but others might not think so." I grimaced at the vice principal, my old mentor from grad school. Resisting the push to concede, I shook my head firmly. You know a bit about my family situation. I'm sorry, but I can't concede. If they move in, I might never be able to shake these freeloaders. The vice principal nodded in understanding but looked troubled. Then Ruby, maybe you should take some leave for a while. If anything comes up, you can reach out to the school for help. I thought for a moment and nodded. When I was doing my PhD, my parents caused a scene then too, trying to set me up for blind dates, finally settling only when I promised to buy them a retirement house after signing a document. Pulling the same stunt now, I knew they wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted, so taking a break was a necessary move. I tidied up my desk, grabbed my bag, and waved at the family preparing to stay longer. Starting today, I'm on vacation. Aren't you going home? If you love this place so much, stay here if you like. I rolled my eyes and walked away as they started shouting. Just like that, I was forced to start my vacation. Hey, since you're on leave, why not visit Alex? You two hardly get time together outside of school breaks, Mary, my college friend and best buddy, said while we sipped bubble tea and strolled in the park. She teaches at another university at opposite ends of the city, so it's rare we get to meet despite being in the same town. I shook my head. I wish I could, but I've still got students' projects and papers to oversee. Can't exactly leave town. Staying home and resting sounds pretty good though. Mary gave me a sympathetic pat on the shoulder. Then, suddenly remembering, asked. Oh, weren't you trying for a baby? Any news? I stopped, taking a deep breath. What's wrong? Something up? Mary looked concerned, seeing my reaction. I shook my head, forcing a smile. No problem, it's just that I've got a lot on my mind lately. I'm not sure if getting pregnant right now is a good idea. Mary let out a sigh of relief, giving my shoulder a gentle pat. Don't stress too much. Every family has its own struggles. Just go with the flow. Yeah, you're right. I'm actually looking forward to the little one's arrival. Mary flashed a relieved smile. See, that's the spirit. You never know, suddenly you'd be like, oh wow, why's my stomach hurting? I need to hit the bathroom. You wait here for me, okay? Alright, you go on. I quickly grabbed her coat and bag, watching her dash off to the restroom. While Mary was in the restroom, it was still light out. I have no idea how long I waited. The sun started to set, and it got darker around me. I looked at my watch and frowned. It's been half an hour. Did something happen to Mary? Ding ding. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. A text message from Mary's number. Your friend is around the lake, near the southern woods. If you don't want her dead, you'd better not call the cops. Get over here quick. I was shocked. By the time I bolted over to Mary, it was fully dark. With just a few dim streetlights, I immediately spotted Mary with her mouth taped shut. Her white shirt was stained, and she looked at me in sheer terror. I glanced at the people standing around her, and then my gaze fell on the leader. I couldn't help but frown. Kim, you've got some nerve. I let out a cold laugh. The big beefy young guy? That's my nephew Kim. When he saw me, he showed no fear or shame. Instead, he grabbed Mary tight with a smug grin like a lowlife. Hey, Auntie, you're pretty loyal, huh? Didn't call the cops, right? Otherwise, your good friend here would be in trouble. I smirked, taking a step closer, just one step away from Kim and the others. Relax, I obviously didn't call the cops. I'm here as promised, so let her go. Kim didn't say a word, just gave a nod to the other two guys. They moved quickly, grabbing me and dragging Mary and me towards the nearby woods. Kim let out a laugh that was way too creepy for his age. Mom said my aunts got high standards. Back in the day, she didn't give a damn about anyone. So today, let me reward you with 2 young bucks to have fun with. Gross. I spat at his face. Then I smacked him hard. You uneducated little brat, since your mom won't teach you, I'll do it for her. Kim froze, seemingly in disbelief that someone like me, who should have been trembling in fear, dared to hit him. Damn it, even my mom hasn't hit me. You're looking to die. Come on now. Kim barked, raising his fist to strike. I ducked, kicked off, knocked away the guy holding me, and with a swift kick, nailed Kim right in the groin. Oh my God. Kim instantly dropped, letting out a blood-curdling scream. 10 minutes later. I had dealt with Kim and his two buddies, sitting with Mary, waiting for the ambulance and enjoying the sight of their miserable state. In college, I joined the school fight club and got into freestyle fighting. Later, with a stable income, I even trained with a professional coach. These three guys, strong but clueless, were no match for me when I struck unexpectedly. That's why I felt confident going to find Mary alone. But to be fair, I wasn't lying to Kim. I didn't call the cops and don't plan to. I don't know about the other two, but Kim, the jerk, isn't legally an adult yet. Even if charged, it would go easy on him. Plus, there was no surveillance around, and even that text was sent from Mary's phone. And seeing these guys on the ground in pain, a thorough investigation might just cause me more trouble. After all, the suspects are laid out, while I, the supposed victim, am unscathed. The moment my sister Helen and my parents heard the news, they rushed over. Mary and I got checked out at the hospital. Luckily, she was only missing a few strands of hair and didn't have more injuries. Those three were in bad shape, though. Kim got it rough from my kick and went straight to surgery. My dear son, you've suffered, but don't worry, Mom's here. That damn woman dared to hurt you so badly. I won't let her get away with this. I'm going to make her pay, get her locked up for life. Helen held her son's hand by the hospital bed, sobbing uncontrollably. I clapped my hands, mocking her. A nephew trying to assault his own aunt, such a fine job you've done, sis. Want me to spread the word for you? Shut up. You liar, it's all your nonsense. Helen leaped up, trying to hit me with a chair. I dodged, and she lost her balance, nearly bowing to me early for New Year's. I raised an eyebrow. If you want a hospital bed next to your son, keep it up. My parents looked at me with tears and a hateful glare. Ruby, if anything happens to my grandson, I will have you arrested. You hurt your nephew this bad. Mom kept muttering curses at me. But I didn't care. I shrugged, go ahead, call the cops if you want. But better ask your grandson if he's up for it first. I shot a cold look at Kim sneaking glances at me from the hospital bed. Now, he was like a cat that just saw a tiger, quickly ducking under the covers. Watching those people cry like their lives depended on it, I started to feel bored. I ignored Helen's murderous glare, yawning as I turned to leave. I'll kill you. Kill you. I could still hear her impotent rage long after I'd walked away. Mary and I didn't get back home until it was almost midnight. We slept like logs and didn't wake up until much later the next day. I made Mary a cup of coffee, but she just sat at the table in a daze, still shaken by what happened last night. I'm sorry, it's all because of me this time. I got you involved. I owe you a big dinner to make it up to you. I felt guilty as hell for dragging her into my mess. But Mary didn't seem to hear me, caught up in her thoughts. Wait, your nephew's name is Kim, right? That sounds familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere. She kept mumbling to herself. Suddenly it hit me. Oh, that's right. He got into the university where you teach. I'd never told Mary about my family drama to keep her out of it. But despite my efforts, she got involved anyway. Mary slapped her leg in excitement. Yes. I've called his name during roll call. That's why it seemed so familiar. I need to talk to the school about this. Kidnapping and trying to harass a teacher? No way can we keep someone like him around. Watching Mary, who had been a nervous wreck ready to call the cops, now so fired up, filled me with warmth. The friendship we built since college was way more valuable than anything I shared with my blood-related sister. I was grateful to have Mary. "Hey, why are you spacing out? Not happy? I'm gonna make sure this trash doesn't get another chance." Mary waved a hand in front of my face. I shook my head, then pulled a test result from my pocket and handed it to her. Her mouth dropped open in shock. "Ruby, are you pregnant?" I nodded with a bittersweet smile. The timing matched my last pregnancy, and I couldn't believe this little one was here again. Mary wasted no time. She reported everything to the school the next day. With my testimony in the subsequent investigation, Kim crumbled under the pressure, his story full of holes. Unsurprisingly, Kim got expelled, and his actions were condemned across campus. He became the talk of the school, and not in a good way. Of course, his story made it online, and soon the local community was buzzing about a student named Kim getting expelled for trying to harm a teacher. My phone blew up with calls from nosy relatives. Those who had blamed me at Mark's memorial now called to apologize. "Well, you're a teacher with class. You saw right through that little brat. It's embarrassing to have a relative like that." Kim's life took a nosedive. He lost his university spot and faced public disgrace, all thanks to himself. Yet surprisingly, Helen, who should have been pushed to madness, seemed drained and spiritless. Other than a livid phone call the day Kim was expelled, she acted as if I didn't exist. Which was fine by me. I also broke the news about the pregnancy to Alex. Hearing it, he was over the moon. Even over the phone, I could feel his excitement as if he were jumping with joy. He rushed back to see me, picking me up and twirling me around when he arrived, happy as a kid. Since we had a brief, travel-style wedding and never took wedding photos, we decided to do it now before my baby bump showed. We both loved the idea. Alex and I spent the day shopping till I found the perfect dress. It was $3,000, and he bought it on the spot. I was exhausted by the time we got home and collapsed into a chair, pouring myself some warm water. That dress was way too expensive. We're only gonna wear it for photos. Why buy it? But I couldn't stop smiling at the photo I'd taken of it on my phone. Had to buy it. This dress means a lot to me. "So, do you want Sichuan-style fish or the one with pickled veggies?" They had some fresh fish today. Alex seemed totally unfazed by the shopping spree, already prepping the fish he'd picked up on our way back. I felt parched and took a sip of water. "Sichuan style, please. I haven't had spicy food in a while." "Hold on." Crash. The glass slipped from my hand, smashing to the floor. "What happened? Are you okay?" Alex panicked, dropping the fish to rush to my side. "Whoa there, sweetheart, did you overdo it? Your hand's shaking." He hurried to clean up the broken glass pieces, looking concerned. I frowned, stopping him. "Wait," I said. I marked something before we left, but the mark's off. His hand froze mid-air. "What are you saying? Have you been binge-watching detective shows again?" I'd positioned the kettle spout facing the kitchen door, but now it's moved. I checked other spots where I'd left subtle markers and found they too were altered. The hair tie was gone, and the tissue paper no longer in place. Ever since the last time Helen sneaked in, I've been super paranoid. Before heading out, I always leave some subtle marks only I can notice. And today, they finally paid off. I quickly pulled up the security footage on my phone. Just as I feared, one section of the footage was gone. Everything else looked normal. Alex, looking terrified, started sweating bullets. He checked me up and down like he thought the air itself might be toxic. He was visibly annoyed. Damn it, I should have been more cautious earlier. Now what do we do? We don't have any evidence to catch her. Seeing him so regretful made me chuckle a bit. I fiddled with my phone for a moment. "Alex, your wife's a bit smarter than you think." 5 minutes later, I was dialing 911 again. Meanwhile, Alex watched me intensely, lost in thought. His gaze made me uneasy. "Hey, why are you staring at me like that?" His brows furrowed deeper, as if trying to see right through me. "Ruby, you've seemed different lately, not like before." His eyes held mine, warm and clear, not a hint of threat. "If you trust me, if you think I'm your lifelong partner, don't keep things from me." I clenched my hands and looked down. The broken glass on the floor wasn't cleaned up yet. The clear water on the tiles reflected my image. Alex was still waiting for my response. I started trembling, taking deep breaths. "What if I told you my sister already killed me once? Would you believe me?" I asked, my voice shaky with emotion. When Helen got called to the police station, she was weirdly calm. Maybe even disappointed. Was it because she didn't see me at the hospital, didn't get to inherit my property without trouble? She didn't know Alex and I had been married for a while. To her, if something happened to me, my stuff would go to our parents. But she looked older suddenly, tired, even with some gray hairs. The sadder she seemed, the better I felt. Her current situation was her own fault. Compared to what she did to me, this was just a small taste of pain. Helen seemed both weak and vicious, sneering at me. "What's up, sis? Trying to frame me again? I don't have a key or the code, how could I even get into your place? You're just paranoid." I smiled, showing her my phone. "Forgot? I told you I had security cameras." Helen didn't even flinch, rolling her eyes with disdain. "Oh yeah? Then show me. But without evidence, don't accuse the innocent. You owe me for emotional distress and defamation, you got that?" I smiled, giving the phone to the police. The quiet footage suddenly played a sound of the door opening with a fingerprint scanner. Then, a fully disguised woman snuck in. Hat, gloves, mask, clear as day, it was Helen. She got nervous, glancing over, and instantly went pale. "Wait. This isn't right. You faked this with a computer. You're setting me up. This has nothing to do with me," she shouted, desperate. The composed Helen vanished. She started screaming frantically. "Quiet down." The officer snapped at her, continuing to watch. In the footage, Helen took a packet from her bag, pouring something into my water pitcher. Then she moved to the kitchen, messing around the fridge. Alex, and the officer turned our eyes back on Helen. Her face was bloodless, and despite the room being just above freezing, sweat beaded on her forehead. She stammered, but the words stuck in her throat. She flipped out and fainted. The police reports confirmed it. The water had poison in it, and they'd smeared rat poison on my kitchen tools too. Even Alex, who'd believed everything, lost it, holding me tight and sobbing. "God, how can you have family like this? She killed you once and wanted to do it again?" he cried. I sighed, patting his back. Watching Helen try to poison me again wasn't surprising. I was calmer this time. She didn't want to wait with slow poison anymore. She tried to use rat poison. Luckily, I had a rechargeable security camera. Even after Helen cut the power, I caught every move she made. As for how she got in, she observed me using the fingerprint scanner and secretly copied it with tape. Guess I'll need a new lock. Helen got arrested for attempted murder and poisoning. With that, the lingering fear I'd had since my rebirth eased. On the day of the trial, everyone, my parents, Kim, were crying their hearts out. The rest? They were just there to watch the drama unfold. Most people just side with whoever's weaker, kicking someone when they're down. And Kim, who used to be all cocky and never backed down to anyone, is now all quiet and even talks softly. Looks like that kick I gave him really taught him a lesson. Helen got sentenced to 7 years. She's always been nagging me to find her a place to crash. Well, now she's got one, plus she gets 3 meals a day in there. As for my so-called parents, maybe seeing Helen locked up made them realize they should stop hoping for anything more. They came crawling back to apologize, but they still can't say anything decent. Ruby, we know your mom and I were wrong. But no matter what, we're still your real parents, right? You can't just leave us hanging, can you? Look, Kim's in bad shape because of that kick, but he didn't even want us to go to the police. He's such a nice kid. Helen's in jail now, but you shouldn't hold grudges. Even if you have your own kids, remember to look out for Kim, okay? I just gave them a blank stare and blocked them, cutting off all contact. I've already given them more money than enough before. I don't want any more ties with them. I think I've accepted this reality. Not every parent truly loves their child. Once I sorted out these family issues, I went back to school. Alex's transfer request got approved, and he's back working in the city. A few months later, I finally had my long-awaited baby. The moment I saw her, I couldn't help but cry and shake. At that moment, all those deep-seated pains and fears finally vanished. Helen, Kim, and my parents, none of them can harm me anymore. Looking at the tiny little one dozing in my arms, it's like I'm seeing that unloved version of me from decades ago. I'm going to give her the love I never received, 1,000 times over.